Welcome to 214 Square. It's the seventh and last episode of this season. Election day is over, and so we have a slightly different episode structure today. We start with the elections in New York City. Then we look at the results in New Jersey and in Virginia before, one last time, we look at President Trump's job approval ratings, and we will review this season. The Big Apple has a clear winner. Democratic candidate Zohran Mamdani has won the election with over 50%, though, according to the New York Times, at the moment, 7% of the votes still have to be counted. Bad luck for his Republican contender, Curtis Sliwa, who only got 7%, probably due to President Trump's endorsement of former Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo got almost 42% of the votes. Looking at my forecasts, we see that my closest forecast was for Mamdani with less than 1% difference, while there were more than 10% differences for both Sliwa and Cuomo. The shift is also visible in the chart, where we see the sudden uplift for Cuomo in the election in comparison to previous polls. Mikey Sherrill is now governor-elect of New Jersey. The Democratic candidate defeated her Republican contender, Jack Ciattarelli. She got over 56%, Ciattarelli 43%, so she won clearly with a winning margin of over 13%. Based on data from the New York Times, all counties in New Jersey shifted towards Democrats with an average of over 7. The forecasts I made for the New Jersey gubernatorial election were different from New York City, but none was within the 3% bounds. Sherrill gained 4.2% more than the forecast of 52%, or over 1.2% too much to be considered a hit. Ciattarelli performed worse with a deviation of 5. My forecast for him was 48. Like in New York City, but less extreme, we see that on Election Day, the gap between the two candidates widened, but here in favor of the Democratic candidate over the Republican contender. Virginia made history by electing its first female governor. Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic contester of the Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earle-Sears, got over 57% of the votes. Earle-Sears got almost 43% of the votes. Mrs. Earle-Sears wasn't endorsed by President Trump. Mrs. Spanberger won with a margin of over 14.6%. There were 6.55 more margin for the Democratic candidate than in the presidential election last year. Unlike New Jersey, not all counties saw a majority of cast ballots for Spanberger. 5 counties, among them Charlotte and Mecklenburg. My personal forecast in Virginia was better than in New York City and in New Jersey. Spanberger gained 3.2% more than forecasted, or 0.2 more to be considered a hit. Earle-Sears performed better than expected with 0.4 over the hit zone. In the chart, we see that both candidates rose in the election since the last poll. They were probably able to convince some remaining undecided voters. The country's still in a government shutdown, and it's now the longest in the history of the United States, with 39 days at the day this episode airs. The second longest was a shutdown during Trump's first term. One of the fallouts of the current shutdown is a reduction in air traffic, as the president announced on Thursday, November 6th. On Polymarket, a popular prediction market, traders are expecting the shutdown to end by November 15th this year. Last time we look at the president's net job approval rating and see that his numbers recovered just slightly from a 2-week plunge to minus 11%. And now it's time to review this season. Personally, I wasn't happy with the quality of this season. I started relatively unprepared. Because I was moving and just settled in Tallinn, Estonia when I began this season, I didn't properly prepare data up front. Additionally, I covered 3 elections at once rather than focusing on a single one. Also, apart from covering 3 elections at once, I continued producing the videos in English and in German, which again increased the workload. And of course, I made a couple of errors over time. Now let's see how well I performed in each election. Remember, I consider results that deviate not more than 3% from my forecast a hit. Starting again with the Big Apple, we can say that Mamdani is a hit. Sliwa is not a hit, very clear. Same with Cuomo. In New Jersey, Sherrill was not a hit, and so was Ciattarelli. And in Virginia, I was close, but Spanberger wasn't a hit, nor was Earle-Sears. For a score, we look at the best outcome, which would be 0 everywhere, or, in other words, a bullseye. The worst acceptable results would be 3 per candidate, or 9 in NYC, and 6 in each, New Jersey and Virginia. The worst outcome would be 164 in New York, 104 respectively 108 in New Jersey and Virginia. In New York City, I earned a 4 of 5. In the other 2 states, a 5 of 5. Our chart also shows that my worst forecasts were New York, then much better New Jersey, and then my best forecast, Virginia. Overall, 38 of a worst of 376, or 90% of a bullseye. On this scale, I would thus be on the fifth of five grades. In the future, I will analyze the residential real estate market of Singapore. I also plan a deep dive about the Turkish economy, and I may produce some shorts about the upcoming election in Chile. Generally, my goal is to produce fewer but better videos, to write more articles on Substack, and to publish some video discussions. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned.